So just a very quick question. How many of the participating members have been through the change in any of the earlier laws? Say, for example, if any one of you have seen the change from the erstwhile income tax law to the Income Tax Act 1961, or many of you would have already seen the change in the indirect tax regime. Say, for example, how many of you have seen the change from the central excise, the VAT regime to the GST regime? How many of you would have seen the change in the pre-VAT regime? Say, for example, in the state of Tamil Nadu, it was the Tamil Nadu General Sales Tax, and in each of the respective states, before the adoption of VAT, there were different state legislations. So, any one of you have seen the migration from an earlier legislation to a newer legislation, right? Right? So, many of you have seen the change. So, when the law got changed from, say, for example, the VAT regime, or say, for example, the central excise regime to the GST regime, what was the fundamental change that really happened? You can put it onto your comment box as to what was the fundamental or one of the most important changes that got changed when the VAT laws were replaced by the GST law. What was something that got very substantially got changed? Any specific answer that you would like to say? The concept of input tax credit got changed. Yes, the concept of input tax credit got changed, right? Yes. E-way bill got changed. Yes. Great. The rules got simplified. Yes, you got more clarity. Yes. The cascading effect of tax got removed. Lot of benefits that we could speak about. The fundamental concept that got changed, one not on a concept level but at the implementation level, is the tax identifier number that was allotted to each of the taxpayer got changed under the new law regime. Yes or no? The tax identifier number, which was earlier, say for example, it was the central excise registration number, or say for example, the VAT TIN number, got replaced by another new identification number in the format of GSTIN. Yes or no? How many of you have felt that I had a different identity before GST, and after GST, my identity got changed? I was given a new separate number. Yes or no? Yes. Right. Is this the same that is going to happen now under the new Income Tax Act 2025 also? Are we going to get a separate PAN number? Are we going to get a separate TAN number? Are we going to get a separate identification number? Is that going to change? Is that happening here? Is that happening here? Any new PAN number allotted? Any new transitional provisions provided for any of the existing registrations? You can get your new number by applying through this portal, a simplified form. Any of that was provided? No, no, right. So that is the first and foremost important thing that we have to all appreciate, that this new Income Tax Act 2025 does not create a new identification number. It retains the existing identification number that I already had. I was happy about my PAN number. I was happy about my TAN number. No complaints about it. And the law still continues to have the same PAN number and TAN number. That's one of the biggest benefits that I could see here now with this new Income Tax Act 2025. Yes, a lot of simplification has been done with respect to the way the legal provisions are being read and to be interpreted. But the first and foremost thing is that I still continue to retain my own identity. My existing identity, which was there in the format of my PAN number with respect to all my income tax transactions, and my TAN number, which was all relating to all my TDS deduction and TDS collection, continues to be the same. This has been one of the biggest highlight that I would personally see talking about it from the perspective of this new Income Tax Act 2025. So because, why do I really come to this point? when I really come to the point of TDS deduction and TDS payment, the first and foremost question would be on which account do I have to go and make the payment on? Should I apply for a new TAN number? Can I use the existing TAN number which I already have? Yes. The answer is made very simple. The existing tax identification number, the identification number in the format of PAN, that is your permanent account number, and your tax deduction account number TAN will continue to be the same even under the new Income Tax Act 2025. I'm not sure how many of them actually realize that this is one of the fundamental change or the fundamental constant that has been kept in the transition from the old Income Tax Act 1961 to the new Income Tax Act 2025. So thankfully, the objective being to make things simpler, the objective to basically mean that the interpretation of law has to be made much simpler. This is the way things have to really begin. It is not about rolling out an all India campaign, giving everyone a new identification. No, this is the way we want simplification. This is the way we appreciate simplification, that I don't have to get a new number. The same old number continues, but the law still accepts my old number and someone has to apply for a PAN number now. The format is different. The form is now titled differently. So those changes continue to have effect, but whereas the same old PAN number and the same old TAN number continue to exist. So having said that, Sir Deepak sir, so I appreciate your request that we can have the session in Tamil as well. So just a very single sentence explanation of what I have been explaining so far. Sir, நம்ம இப்போ வரைக்கும் வச்சிருக்கிற PAN நம்பர், TAN நம்பர் இப்போ நியூ இன்கம் டேக்ஸ் ஆக்ட் 2025ல மாறுறது இல்ல. தி சேம் ஓல்ட் PAN நம்பர் அண்ட் TAN நம்பர் இஸ் வாட் வில் கண்டினியூ அண்டர் தி நியூ இன்கம் டேக்ஸ் ஆக்ட் 2025. ஸோ அதே நம்பர் இருக்கிறதுனால மிகவும் இதை ஒரு சட்டத்துல இது ஒரு எளிமையாக்குறோம், இது ஒரு எளிதான சட்டம் அப்படிங்கிறது மட்டும் ஒரு சொல்வாக்கில் மட்டும் இல்லை, இது நடைமுறையிலும் இது உண்மையானதாகத்தான் உள்ளது. வெரி சிம்பிள் ரீசன், அதே PAN நம்பர் அதே TAN நம்பர் வச்சு போகும்போது இட் பிகம்ஸ் மச் பெட்டர், ரைட்? ஸோ கோயிங் வித் திஸ், let us just talk about the overall concept of how tax deduction and payment actually works, right? So these many people might also recollect that we had a very similar session on the concept of TDS under the new Income Tax Act 2025 in the mid of March 2026. So in the mid of March 2026, anticipating the change and very much to make sure that the trade and industry are accustomed to the new TDS provisions, we had a session in the mid of March 2026 addressed by our expert CA Balakrishnan, who took us through the concept and the legal provisions relating to TDS. Now, the specific agenda for this session in the first week of May 2026 is to provide for the method of payment. How do I make the payment of TDS under this new Income Tax Act 2025? Is there any change related to the same? And if at all there is a change, what is the change that I need to know? And how do I really move forward towards the change? So with respect to this, I'm sharing my screen. You can please let me know once the screen is visible. Sir, is my screen visible, sir? Yes, right. So TDS deduction and payment under the Income Tax Act 2025. So the overall scheme of TDS was, is, and will continue to be the same. That is, step 1 being the deduction of tax by the deductor. Number 2, payment by the deductor to the government's account. Number 3, filing of return by the deductor, issue of TDS certificate by the deductor, and finally the claim of TDS credit by the deductee. This is how the overall scheme of TDS was under the 1961 Act, is under the 2025 Act, and will continue to be the same as well. So here, the substantial focus with respect to TDS is on the deductor or on the deductee. You could see here on the slide that the substantial focus with respect to TDS is from the perspective of the deductor. That is, the person who deducts the tax has to make the payment of the same to the government, file the TDS return, and issue the TDS certificate. So, instead of going the direct way around, let us go in the reverse working, because the session in the mid of March 2026, if we have already missed, the session video is already available on YouTube, and we will share the link of the video also on the chat, and will also be made available in the WhatsApp group. Right. So, what are the legal provisions that govern the deduction of tax at source, and what are the various tax rates were well discussed in the session in the mid of March, and now the approach is more towards payment. And before we really reach towards payment, I will first upon discuss on the aspect relating to TDS certificate. So what is the last step which the deductor is required to comply with is with respect to the issuance of TDS certificate. So what was the TDS certificate which was there under the old Income Tax Act? Now that entirely for the assessment year 26-27, the TDS payment for the Q4 was completed by the 30th of April, and now the TDS return would be filed. So under the 1961 Act, what was the TDS certificates that were being regularly used? Generally, there were two types of TDS certificates that were generally being used. One was TDS in respect of salary, and the other was TDS in respect of other than salary. So as rightly mentioned by Kanagaraj sir as well, TDS in respect of salary was governed under Form 16, and TDS other than salary was governed under Form 16A. Now, the TDS certificate for salary will be in Form 130, and the TDS certificate other than salary is in Form 131. So once we know the ultimate objective of what I am going to work towards, now this is the resultant output which I have to give to my deductee. So ultimately my deduction, payment, return filing all will result in my TDS certificate, which is going to be in Form 130 or Form number 131 generally. So for getting the TDS certificate in Form 130 or 131, generally to mean Form 131, what is it that I would be required to comply with? I would be required to file a TDS return. And a TDS return earlier was under which form, sir? TDS return was under which form? We were filing TDS return on monthly or quarterly basis? Monthly, quarterly, half yearly, yearly basis. Was there any option like the GST returns which provides for some returns to be filed on a monthly basis? Some returns can be filed on a quarterly basis, right? So TDS return we were filing on a quarterly or monthly or half yearly basis? Quarterly. Great. Great, Yuvraj Singh sir. So the TDS return which was filed on a quarterly basis continues to be on a quarterly basis, and the TDS return on salary which was hitherto under form number 24Q is now going to be under form number 138, and the TDS return other than salary which was there under form 26Q is now under form 140. Form 26QB and other returns are going to be in form 141, and TCS return is going to be in 143. So the utility for filing these TDS returns are not yet made available, but reading through the form, we need to understand what is basically required so that I can get my TDS certificate. Correct filing of my TDS return gives me my TDS certificate. So what do I really need to fill in my TDS return, right? So everyone has given a great answer. Badrinath sir, Darshana, Sriram sir, Gopalakrishna sir, great. So quarterly returns. So these are the quarterly returns that continues to exist, and this is an extract from form number 140. Form number 140, which is a TDS return other than salary, continues to have the same type of format. One is the TDS, the one is the details of the deductor, the challan payment details, and then is the annexure, which gives the deductive wise breakup of the TDS, right? Though it talks about deductive wise breakup, it gives the transaction level details are required because the date of payment is being sought in the deductive wise breakup, and therefore it is more like a transaction level breakup of transactions which require TDS deduction. Whether or not TDS is deducted and remitted or not, there might be instances where TDS is applicable in respect of this payment. Say, for example, a rent payment of rupees 20,000 per month might not attract TDS because of the threshold limit, but whether that transaction is required to be reported in the TDS return, straight answer yes. Straight answer without any second thoughts, the answer is yes, for the simple reason that the TDS return has a specific column to mention that TDS amount to 0 because it has not crossed the threshold limit. So any nature of payment, even if it has not crossed the threshold limit, is required to be reflected in form number 140, which is the TDS return for other than salary. So to move forward into this TDS return other than salary, here we could see the one of the most important detail that is being captured is the PAN of the deductee. PAN of the deductee is one of the most important detail that is being required, and then which is the section code. Then is the section code. So I want all of us to understand what is the code that we will be looking into with priority, with attention, so that the same can be captured appropriately into my TDS return as well. See, because under the S12 provisions, we used to have generally sections 194C, 194I, 194J, 194T. So various different TDS sections were there. Now the number of TDS sections are extremely very few, but whereas all the differing transactions are covered within the same section in multiple tables, and each table having a separate identifiable row, which also needs to be taken into account. So when I configure the transactions of TDS into my ERP, should I configure based on the table number and the section number as per the Income Tax Act, or should it be based on a different grouping? In our suggestion, it would be best to group as per the section code, because section code is what is required in the TDS return. The TDS return to be filed requires section code. You need PAN and you need the section code. So whenever one of the most common issues that we could see with respect to the PAN of the deductee is that after the filing of the TDS return, many tax deductors note that the PAN number which has been given by the deductee was incorrect, or the PAN number which is entered into the TDS return was incorrect. Now moving forward, first and foremost, that error should not continue, and therefore I would like to introduce you all now to the new traces portal. The TDS CPC portal, which was hitherto a little different, has now been replaced with this new traces portal. And for any reason, if you want to access the old traces portal, you will have to go under the compliance under the Income Tax Act 1961. So basically, when you log into the traces portal, you would be directly brought into this page. Which says it is traces portal, but the look and feel, the color theme looks very much like the new income tax portal. The color theme looks very much like the new income tax portal. The layout of the ribbons, the layout of the menus, all looks very much like the new income tax portal. But this is the new traces portal. If at all you are going to file a TDS return, relating to the Income Tax Act 1961, you need to click under this option. So, as was already available in the erstwhile traces portal, even under this traces portal, you have the option for bulk PAN verification. So, the best practice, which would be saving you an enormous amount of time and TDS notices, is that you verify your PAN at the time of deduction or at the time of payment itself. Because if the PAN is not valid and operative, then the tax has to be deducted at the higher rate. Tax has to be deducted at the higher rate. So this is not a post-mortem exercise that we will do, but every time before the filing of TDS return, you will ensure that there is a bulk PAN verification and that PAN is being verified. So this is available under the option Services Bulk PAN Verification. You will be given an Excel file, the template. You can fill the details in the Excel file, which looks somewhere like this. And once you upload the details, you would be able to immediately get the details that the status of the PAN is valid and operative. Only when the PAN is valid and operative, you can continue to deduct the TDS under the rates as provided for. Otherwise, if the PAN is not valid, then you will have to deduct TDS at higher rates. You will have to deduct TDS at the higher rates. Now, so I got the PAN number. Yes, I have verified my PAN number also. What is the section code that we are talking about? What is the section code as per the TDS return? They are not asking for the section code as per what is there under the Income Tax Act 2025. They're asking for a section code which is a little different, which has a 4-digit code. So the section under which TDS is being deducted for, say for example, commission or brokerage in other situation, generally commission or brokerage others, is section 393 subsection 1, table number, serial number 1, italic 2. This is the commission or brokerage whenever it is being paid to others. The section code that is being applicable is 1006. And this is the section code which you will have to enter into your TDS return. Therefore, in our opinion, in our suggestion, it is best that we track the transactions based on this section code as is being made available. Right? We will send you the entire list of section codes in the WhatsApp group. The QR code for opening the WhatsApp group, for joining the WhatsApp group will also be shared at the end of the session today. So you can join our WhatsApp group wherein this entire list of section codes and also what is the relevant table number in section number 393 of the Income Tax Act. Section 392 talks about TDS on salary. Section 393 of the income tax talks about TDS other than salary. So this is the section under the Income Tax Act. But when I talk about section code, it is the 4-digit code. This 4-digit code is what needs to be entered into the TDS return, and therefore all the books of accounts, all the files that you maintain from now on relating to TDS deduction or TDS payment shall all be matched along with this section code, which will be the base for filing the TDS return. So this is one important aspect, see, because you cannot think about TDS return when it falls due after the end of the first quarter. But then let us start maintaining the books of accounts, let us start maintaining the records as per this section code, so that it will ease a lot of duplication of work. Otherwise, you will be doing the work if you are maintaining as per this section, then you will have to again do a VLOOKUP or again maintain the details as per this section code. Only then you will be able to fill the details within the TDS return. Right? So the entire list of section codes is something that we will be sharing in the WhatsApp group. Now, how do I make the payment of tax? For the making the payment of tax, do I need to know the section code? How do I really make the payment of tax? So the incometax.gov.in, which is the e-portal of the income tax department. So income tax operates two portals. One is incometaxindia.gov.in, where all the laws and regulations, the acts, rules, notifications, circulars, everything is being made available in the website as incometaxindia.gov.in. Incometax.gov.in is the portal where we can log in, We can make payment even without login. So ePay tax is an option which is available on the face of the e-filing portal, which is incometax.gov.in. Once you click ePay tax, you would be immediately asked under which act do you want to make the payment on, whether it is under the Income Tax Act 2025 or the Income Tax Act 1961. Once you select the Income Tax Act 2025, you will be taken forward for entering your PAN or TAN and as well as your confirmation and your mobile number. Any mobile number is okay. Once you enter your details of the mobile number and you validate the details, then you will be required to enter the OTP, and on entering the OTP, you will be displayed your name, which validates whether the PAN or the TAN on which you are going to making the payment is correct or not. Once the PAN or TAN is correct, then you select the tax year. Tax year, no confusion. There's only one tax year now. Only for the tax year 26-27, you could make a payment. There is no option to make a mistake at all. Once you select the tax year, then you have the option to make the payment of TDS or TCS. You pay TDS. There are 4 categories. There are 4 steps that you need to move forward for the making the payment of TDS, right? The first and foremost step is the deductive type. This step, there is no change under the S12 regime and under the correct new Income Tax Act regime. That is, you will have to select whether it is a company deductee or a non-corporate deductee, right? A company deductee, so a company deductee is where the deductee, I am the deductor, deducting an amount from the deductee and remitting such amount on my TAN number. Still, the category that is relevant over here is what is the category of the deductee. So the category of the deductee is what will be very important to decide which challan will be going into as you move forward. So let's take, for example, it is going to be an other than company deductee, and then you have 2 other options, whether it is going to be a resident or a non-resident. So the TDS return in respect of a resident is different. TDS return in respect of a non-resident, for say, for example, even with respect to salary, is different. Therefore, the category of the deductee, whether it is residential status, resident or non-resident, and whether it is going to be a company deductee or a other than company deductee, has to be very correctly chosen. Once you select that, then you have the option for the nature of payment details. For this nature of payment details, should I know the section code? Should I know the table number? Should I know the section under the Income Tax Act? No. Drop down is very beautiful. The drop down is very beautiful. You can type, say, for example, contract, you type contract. You type rent, you type rent. Profession, you type profession. Even if the words is anywhere within that sentence, it automatically brings you that entire set of detail. And once you select contract, then automatically the selection is subdivided into 2 things. One, which is deducted in case of an individual or HUF. That is, the deductee is an individual or HUF, or that is, the contractor is a person other than individual or HUF. So the rate of TDS, as members would be well aware, is different. When my deductee is an individual or HUF, the TDS would be deducted at the rate of 1% under contract. Where my deductee is other than an individual or HUF, then TDS would be deducted at the rate of 2%. So appropriately, you can select that particular section head. Section code, that is, I mean to say, section code 1023 in respect of a contract, section code 1024 in respect of a contract other than individual and HUF. So that appropriate section code I don't have to remember, but I can select it from the drop-down list by just searching for the keyword that I really are well accustomed with. Yes, sir, this is the same method that I was making the payment on. So before I really make the next move, so let's take how many TDS returns were being used. Say I've started a quick poll. So members can vote in the poll. Members can vote in the poll. how many TDS returns? How many TDS returns? How many TDS challans were being paid each month? How many TDS challans were being paid each month? How many of you are making only one TDS challan? How many of you are making multiple TDS challans? Right? 3 TDS challans. Greater than 4. Right? Substantially, almost 70%. Right? It's very interesting to see this today over here. So, as we are seeing the election results across multiple states, including West Bengal, Assam, Kerala, Pondicherry, and as well for the state of Tamil Nadu, it is interesting to see so many people just voting here, right? So, many of us have been paying greater than 4 challans, right? So, one, say for example, rent, one, the company deductee other than company deductee, then professional, contract, say for example, what are the deduction, commission or brokerage. Each of the sections, we would have been making separate payments, right? Right? So overall, 70% of them have said that we pay more than 4 challans. Greater than 4 challans is what we use. This aspect is getting completely simplified under this new Income Tax Act 2025, where you select one code, make the payment. Say for example, I've selected rent here, making a payment of 6,000, and then you have the most interesting option, which is add or cancel. Add, that is to say, you can add multiple section codes, multiple payments in the same challan. What is static is whether it is a company deductee or whether it is an other than company deductee. If it is a company deductee, you want to make the payment of rent, you want to make the payment of commission, you want to make the payment of contract, all payments can be made in one challan itself. This is one very big change that has happened, though not fully reflected everywhere. This is one of the very important change that we could see in this new TDS payment option. Previously, you could select only one section code, but now you could select multiple section codes. And see here, I have selected 3 section codes and made multiple payments. One section at 4,000, one section at 5,000, one section at 6,000. I can select multiple section codes and I can keep on adding multiple options into the same challan. Therefore, the making the payment of TDS would become simpler. Once the TDS payment becomes simpler, the TDS return filing process also becomes simpler, because the number of TDS challans that I have to really manage and map will also become a lot simpler, right? So this is one of the very important aspects that has now got changed, and therefore, once you enter the amount, number of deductees, number of section codes selected is also being shown. Once you make the payment, once you make the payment, I will just come to this page once again. Once you make the payment, you will have the TDS challan during all the section codes for which the payment is being made. All the section codes for which the section is being, all the section codes for which the payment is being made is also being duly reflected in the challan itself. Therefore, the section code, you don't have to really remember 1009, 1023, 1024 contract, 1024 contract other than salary, other than individual or HCF. No. You search when you make the payment using the keywords, and at the time of challan generation, the code, which is the basis on which you need to file the TDS return, is also properly reflected here in the challan itself, right? So, I was talking about the option to make the payment directly from the income tax portal from e-pay tax. Though that option is available, our suggested option, our recommended option for making the payment is by logging into the portal. You please log into the portal. And then you give the, you then make the payment through the logged in access, right? The reason for this suggestion is that once you log in using your TAN number, sir, for the information of everyone, I'm sure all of you are well aware, that from the same income tax portal, you can log in for the purposes of PAN-based return filing and TAN-based TDS return filing also. TDS return, you can file directly from the income tax portal. You don't have to visit a TIN facilitation center. Gone are the days where the TDS return can be filed only and only through a TIN facilitation center. Here, you can file the TDS returns also through the TAN-based login. So the login is the same. Therefore, PAN, Aadhaar or other user ID, which very specifically provides that you can log in using the TAN number also. Once you enter your TAN number and you can log in, then you can make the payment through that portal where automatically the TAN number and all the other relevant details are pre-filled. Sir, my name is already captured even in the ePay tax, even without login. But once you log in and make the payment, the drafts could also be accessed again. The generated challans, payment history, all these details, you could verify it again and again. You could verify these details again and again. Therefore, our humble suggestion is that make use of the logged in portal for making the payment for return filing processes as well. So here, once you have made the payment, you would be able to view the challan, and the challan will have all these payment details. So these are some of the very important aspects relating to the TDS payment that we wanted to share with you. Now, I also would like to take you through some of the legal aspects which were already discussed in this session in the mid of March 2026, which continues to be the same. So I am again sharing my screen once again. To take you through my CA master examination marks. Okay. Examination days, can I? Okay. Kindly speak about the examination days for DISA, if possible, struggling to reach PNA for 6 months. Okay, that's a completely different subject. Okay. TDS challan for 194I be adjusted with 194H. Other than companies is cross-adjusting along for company and non-company. Am I required to prepare separate challans? Yes, I am required to prepare separate challans. Yes. Then the other question is that there are some sections which was applicable only for specified persons. Yes, the TDS is applicable only for such specified persons, and the applicability is also right. I will just share it from here. 1 second. Even that, sir, the same concept, the same terminology, that concept of specified person continues to be here as well. The concept of specified person continues to be here as well. And therefore, the same TDS rates, the same threshold limits, even the Income Tax Act 2025 also. Can I adjust unconsumed challans paid in the earlier act with new TDS? Sir, in my opinion, it is a little different. The portal is also now functioning very separately. Therefore, I don't think that is very much possible, right? So everyone's question is that can I, sir, generally, I will suggest that, see, the questions are that if I make the company and non-company payment together, can I set it off against, if I make the payment, everything under the company payment itself, can I set it off against the non-company deductee? Yes. I hope the return would allow that adjustment, but whereas, what is the purpose of collecting both is that the payment actually is reflected in the government's account in separate line items. In the union budget statement itself, corporation tax is separate, that is tax paid by the companies, and the income tax is separate, which is the tax paid by other than companies. Since both these are different, there are separate line items, but whereas the return filing utility hope it would accept it by offsetting it. Whether terms of employment by employer can ask the employer to pay tax on salary on self-assessment basis instead TDS? No, sir. TDS liability is on the deductor and that cannot be shifted on to the deductee. So if it is not only with respect to salary, it is on any other section as well. The primary onus relies on the deductor. Otherwise, the assessee in default provisions will continue to exist. Section code entered wrongly. Sir, please ensure at least in the return filing system it is entered correctly. (393(7) contractors, sir, right? So section codes are different and the relevant legal provisions in the act are different. So what are the legal provisions in the section 393? See, basically, I'm sure that all of us have already discussed about this as well, right? So section 392 of the Income Tax Act 2025 talks about salary. Section 393 talks about other than salary. So this was what we were discussing in the earlier session, the PPT of which, the earlier PPT in the mid of March 2025 would also be shared in the group immediately after the session. I will also open the QR code of the WhatsApp group. Santosh, can you just put the WhatsApp groups link so that people can also access the same? Kanagaraj sir, this is a very interesting and important question. Should we report the transactions below the threshold limit in our TDS return? The situation earlier and the situation today continues to be the same, that the instructions to the TDS return and the option for entering the details in the TDS return very clearly provide that even when the transaction limit is less than the threshold limit, you are required to enter the transactions in the TDS return. Sir, this very specific question where TDS was made in respect of provision already made, but the bills are accounted only in the year 26-27. Since the TDS was already made, I think the TDS return also captures the details in the financial year 25-26 or in the 26-27. Can we use a single TDS challan for multiple sections or different deductive types? Yes, you can use a single TDS challan. Yes, that is what I have made more than one section in a challan. Can I get if excess other than one section? Yes, I think cross utilization would definitely be possible. Deductee does not have PAN. Yes, sir. So that is a problem. But then you will enter that specific code that it is below the threshold limit and therefore it should not attract any further liability. Right? (194T), yes, it is applicable to all firms. Yes, sir, it is applicable to all firms. Therefore, partners' remuneration, very much like the way director salary is being fixed in respect of a company, partners' remuneration is also required to be fixed, and therefore that is also being made mandatory. So key takeaways that I would like to share over here are that please be aligned with the section codes. The section codes are what is going to be captured into your TDS return. Number two, the TDS payment, you can use a single TDS challan for multiple section codes together. So these two are very important takeaways. And then we will reflect back on our session that was there in the mid of May 2026 as well. We will share you the section details, the section code details as well in the WhatsApp group, and then we will take things forward. Threshold limit entry filling தமிழ்ல சொல்லுங்க, right? So I will take you through the instructions. I will take you through the form 140, right? I will take you all through form 140. I will share the form also for the benefit of everyone, right? The exact form as well. I will share the screen. Members can let me know once the screen is visible. Sir, is my screen visible? Screen தெரியுதா sir? So, this is form number 140, which is the TDS return other than salary. The TDS return other than salary. So, in the TDS return, நம்ம இதுல இருந்து எடுத்துட்டு வந்த ஒரு டீடைல் தான் இந்த அனெக்சர் வைஸ் டிடக்டிவ் வைஸ் டீடைல்ஸ். இந்த டிடக்டிவ் வைஸ் டீடைல்ஸ் வந்து செக்ஷன் கோட் எல்லாமே ஏன் ரெலவெண்ட் எல்லாமே பேசணும். நம்ம இங்க வந்துட்டு நம்ம ஜெனரலி வந்து லோவர் டிடக்ஷன்ல டாக்ஸ் பிடிச்சோம், இல்ல நம்ம வந்துட்டு டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட்டர்ஸ்க்காக டாக்ஸ் பிடிச்சோம் அப்படின்னா we will enter the details here, right sir? இப்போ இந்த காலம் வந்து which was there even under the old TDS return continues to be there under this new TDS return also. இதுக்கு வந்து நோட்ஸ் கொடுத்திருக்காங்க சார். இங்க வந்து ரொம்ப ஸ்பெசிபிக்கா வந்துட்டு ரைட் why if no deduction is on account of payment below threshold limit as specified in the act. இந்த இடத்துல வந்துட்டு நம்ம வந்து TDS பிடிக்கல, ஏன் அப்படின்னா அந்த பேமெண்ட் இஸ் பிலோ தி threshold limit. In a situation where TDS is not deducted because the payment is below the threshold limit, then there is a specific requirement to enter the section code as Y, which clearly clarifies that the intention of the lawmakers is that we need to actually capture the details of such payments also in the TDS return, right? So this is a very important aspect. Manoj Kumar sir noted your request for having a training session on transfer pricing, right? Definitely we will have a specific session on transfer pricing and also some of the in-depth transactions relating to TDS. See, substantially the idea is to familiarize everyone with respect to the TDS payment under the new income tax portal as well, and also to bring about the importance of the section code. So these are some of the very important aspects that we wanted to discuss today. We thank each one of you for your enthusiastic participation today. So we will be back with more very interesting sessions in the days to come. So I will just share the link of the WhatsApp group alone, so that members can very well access the presentation would be made available to you in the WhatsApp group. The presentation and all the other relevant documents would be made available to you in the WhatsApp group, and therefore we sincerely request each one of you to join the WhatsApp group, which would make things easy for you to access the details. 1 second. Right. Oh. 1 second, sir. I'll just share the details here. So once. Send link to your WhatsApp. I will paste the link of it in the chat here so that people can Sir, I have put the link of it in the WhatsApp, in the Q&A as well as the chat box. Hope you are all able to see the same. If you have any difficulties, do get in touch with our contact details. So our contact details can also be shared to you right here. So my personal mobile number is also being shared to you here in the chat box as well as the Q&A option. If you have any clarifications on any of the aspects relating to GST or TDS or income tax, we would be definitely glad to take it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.